everybody! Welcome to another episode of Slay, where we dare to dream big. I hope everybody's been having a pretty pretty good new year, but unfortunately, for those of us here in New Orleans, it's been kind of a somber start to the year with all the I'm pretty sure you've all heard with all the tragic events that happened yesterday on Bourbon Street. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of those who were impacted. But anyways, let's get on with the show. So today I wanted today's episode to be about theater, and I'm especially excited for this because I've been part of the theater community for as long as I can remember, and I've met so many amazing people who have not just taught me so much about acting and how to become a better actor and things like that, but they've also just been so nice to me and they've been so encouraging to me as well. Whenever I might have been having trouble with my acting at some point, they were always just there to kind of provide me some company and boost me up. And they were all just really nice to me on my theater journey. And I've invited three of those people onto today's show so that I can kind of interview them on how they may have gotten their start in theater, some things that they might like about the world of theater, what advice they'll have for kids like me that are aspiring to continue their journey in the theater world, things like that. So it is with great joy that I welcome onto my show Daisy Mackey, a freshman at Webster University, along with David Russo, a junior at Haynes Academy, and Duran Gray, a sophomore at Riverdale High School. It really is an honor to have all three of you here on the show. You guys have been part of my theater journey for as long as I can remember. I remember we've all been in so many shows, and you guys have been such good actors. I've seen it firsthand, and I've seen a lot of your shows and how you guys have performed. It's been really, really, really great getting to work with you guys, and I can't believe I get to do here on the show with you guys. So, enough of me talking, let's get started. So, Duran, I just want to ask you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself. So, yeah.
Okay. My name is Duran Gray. I'm a sophomore at Riverdale High School. I've been doing theater since I was in second grade. I've done a couple of shows, and I'm also a tuba player.
Nice. That's good to hear, seeing that you're not just in the theater world, but you're also doing other things like playing tuba. I think that's really cool. So, next, let's go to Daisy. Yeah, you can tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Daisy Mackey. I'm 19. As Vedant said, I'm a freshman at Webster University in St. Louis, and I'm studying musical theater. And yeah, I've been doing theater since I was in kindergarten. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Nice. It's good to hear. Seems like, yeah, you've been doing it for a pretty long time since kindergarten. Dang, I've never heard of someone that's been doing it since kindergarten, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now to conclude with this question, I'm gonna ask David to tell the audience a little bit about himself.
Hi everyone, I am David. I'm 17 years old, and I got to the game a little bit later. I started in sixth grade, so a little bit later than Duran and Daisy, but we made it in there. And yeah, I love theater. Yay!
Yeah, that's cool. Dang, I didn't know you started in sixth grade, but that doesn't matter since you've come really, really far in such a short amount of time. So that's good to hear. So this next question, I know I always say about how Slay is we invite people onto the show who have shown excellence in certain fields and things like that, but we also do it just to learn a bit about the people who have achieved excellence in these fields. Because it's not just like we want to know how you achieved excellence and we want to do the same. It's like we genuinely want to get to know a bit more about you guys and what you think about your craft that you've exemplified excellence in, because that's really that's really one of the biggest parts of this whole thing, and why people are invited onto Slate in the first place is because they enjoy the field that they're excelling in. So this next question is kind of just a bit of a reflection of that. So I kind of just wanted to ask you guys, how did you get interested in theater? So this time, I think, Daisy, you can start us off.
Okay, cool. So I'm actually the baby of four, And all of my older siblings have done theater and did theater with Miss Bonnie actually. And I was just a very expressive, singy, dancy kid. So my parents were like, all right, we're gonna put her in theater too. And I've just loved it ever since. I think I just like it just brings me so much joy to be on stage. Um, and I think like as I grew older, it kind of just like the passion and love just like happened more and more every year. Um, and I just kind of knew that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So yeah.
Dang, it's so cool. That's definitely a lot of passion that you've shown there. That of course you enjoyed throughout middle school and high school, but to do it for the rest of your life, that's a lot of commitment. So I admire you for that. That's great. Um, so now let's move to, I think let's go to David this time. So how did you get interested in theater?
Yeah, so obviously I started in sixth grade, but that was when I started acting. I'd taken like field trips with schools before to like see shows. I'd gone to see shows with my grandma. You know, like I'd seen theater beforehand, but I was going into a new school, and my mom was like, like so you enjoy these plays, so you're going to enjoy seeing them. You could audition for one, and I was like, you're so right. So, I got to my new school. They had the fall musical, and I was like, I'm gonna go audition. And I auditioned, and I loved it. And I've done countless others since, and that's how I got into it.
Dang, that's really cool. Seeing like, yeah, you were exposed to it in the first place, but I don't know, it probably wasn't as spur of the moment as I'm thinking it is, but when you said it like that, it just made it sound like you saw it, you wanted to do it, and you went and did it. And I like that attitude. That's very good. So now let's end with Duran here. So how did you get interested in theater?
Okay, so initially I didn't know theater was a thing. I was just a kid that liked to like sing because I sung like the choir at my church and stuff. And then my school had taken field trips to see shows and stuff, but it was only two. I was like, wow, I don't know what this is, but it's cool. And then I had these friends in first grade and they were doing theater. I was like, how do they get to leave PE? I mean, I don't. So basically I was like, I figured out how I could like test in for theater and I tested in. And ever since I started doing it, I was like, I like this. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Dang, that's kind of funny. It's like I didn't even know what theater was. How come they get to leave PE? That sounded really cool though. But in all seriousness though, I think all how you guys all got interested in theater is pretty cool because I've seen it firsthand as well since I was part of theater. There's just something about it. It just invokes something in all of us. And I think that's why we all love doing theater. It's because we really get to show a bit of ourselves to the audience that we wouldn't get to show otherwise if we were painting or singing or doing public speaking or things like that. Theater is kind of just like the perfect combination of all those things that really allows us to just show ourselves to the audience. And it kind of shows on how all three of you got interested in theater. Like, it wasn't just without seeing any theater. You're like, I want to do theater. You guys all had exposure in one way or another. Like, David, he'd seen a lot of plays with his grandma and things like that. And Duran, he'd seen how students around him, they got to go to theater, and he'd also seen quite a few plays as well. And Daisy literally grew up in a theater household. So it's that exposure factor that I think is also kind of important because you know what you're getting yourself into as well. So I think that's definitely very important. And I see like these things happen for a reason as well. Like if these things hadn't happened, then you guys probably wouldn't have gone to where you are currently in the theater world. So I think that's really cool. And you guys keep going on making progress in the theater world. But anyways, on to the next question. So this is just another question that kind of gets me and the audience to know a little bit more about you guys and kind of some of the roles you've played and maybe which roles you particularly enjoy, which kind of once again lets the audience and I let it lets us know a little bit more about you and your personality and yeah, what roles you prefer. So my next question for you guys is out of all the roles you've played, which is your favorite and why? I know this might be a bit of a hard question, but let's see how you guys answer. So I think this time let's I think let's start off with Duran this time. Yeah, you can go Duran.
Okay. So last year I got the chance to play Prince Dauntless in Once Upon a Mattress, and it was actually like one of my favorite roles I've done yet because like it brought a side of me that I don't usually show in my personal life. Like I got to be like goofy on stage, but it also was serious at times. So it's like both sides of me at once, but on stage, and it was really cool.
Yeah, I honestly really like roles like that. They're really versatile and they let you, even though it may seem like it's just this one dimension of someone on the outside, if you really investigate the role and you get to act as it, you really get to see that there's so much more to this character than meets the eye, and you can kind of reflect that in the way that you interpret that character and show yourself to the audience in that way. But yeah, that's really interesting. And I was able to see his play last year. He was such a good Prince Dauntless. It was really, really good. But next let's go to David. So, which is your favorite role and why?
So I think that my favorite role that I've ever done would be Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast. So Beauty and the Beast was the second play that I was ever in, and I got Lumiere. And I think it just presented me with like a challenge to like come out of my comfort zone, come out of my box. Like he's French, I'm not French, so that was one hurdle. I had to do an entire play with my hands above my heads, so that was also another hurdle. But being able to like work with those limitations and like embody the character while also like putting my own little twist on it, I really enjoyed that, and I think it really introduced me more to like what I love about theater.
Yeah, I definitely find that pretty cool. Once again, I was in the play with him. He really aced that accent. It was so, so good. He was a really, really good Lumiere. And wait, I didn't even know that was his second play. Second play, that was pretty good if I may say so myself. But yeah, it definitely makes sense. That was your favorite role. But yeah, let's conclude with Daisy. So, what was your favorite role and why?
Okay, it's so funny that those were y'all's answers because I was deciding between Belle and Winifred. Um, but I ended up going with Winifred because kind of like what Duran was talking about, like this character in Once Upon a Mattress, that's the show that Winifred is from, is just like she's just so unhinged and like goofy and silly. And there's just this aspect of I think theater can be really serious sometimes. But this show is just so unserious. And I don't know, I just loved like being unhinged. Like I didn't wear shoes for most of the show and like I don't know, I just there's little aspects like that where I just got to really play around and like be goofy on stage and that was just so fun to me. Like I can't wait to do more roles like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely find that I definitely see what you're getting at. Like I've seen a lot of people who think theater is just acting like prim and proper, like it's the two masks, the happy mask or the sad mask. And I completely disagree with that. And I think if they saw the plays that we all acted in, then they would disagree with that too. And I definitely find all your final roles, all not all final, favorite roles interesting because you're right. You really do get to see these different sides of the characters because you get to act as them. Like with Duran, he was acting as Prince Dauntless and he got to see these different sides of the character, and that kind of allowed him to see the different angles of the character and how he could portray the character himself to the audience and show he was a silly guy, but he was also able to go through all these different experiences as well that showed he wasn't just a silly guy. He was this guy who wanted a wife and he was going to do what he needed to do to get that wife. So I thought that was definitely pretty interesting. And in the case of David, right, with Lumiere, you have things that the audience literally sees like that's not a normal actor, but that's not a normal role that you would play because Lumiere, he has a French accent and he's like a little candlestick as well. So that's not a normal role that you would play. And just seeing how unorthodox and non-traditional that was, I can definitely see why that was your favorite role because you got to play around with it so much. And I think that's pretty cool. And with the case of Daisy, it's kind of going back to what Duran said as well. You kind of got to be yourself so much throughout the play, and it was a really silly role that, once again, yeah, kind of allowed you to explore the role and kind of make it your own. And I think that's one thing that was really in common with all these roles. We kind of got to interpret the role and make it your own and kind of show it to the audience as your own little creation. And that was as a result of you playing the character. And I think that's definitely pretty cool. So on to the next question. So this question is kind of similar to like the last one. It's also something to do with like a specific role you've played. But as with theater, as we keep getting older and we keep getting more roles, we need to also we can of course you're having fun on stage, but it's also about growing as an actor and trying to find ways to do that as well. And the roles that we play a huge part in that as well. So my next question for you is, out of all the roles you played, which one has allowed you to mature as an actor the most, and in what way has it allowed you to mature the most? And I think let's start off this question with David this time. So
Yeah, so I don't think I would necessarily say that that one specific role has helped me mature the most. Like I think each role that I've played and as I've done each show, I've like learned certain tidbits from each thing. So like Lumiere, for example, like I just talked about, that was like, okay, you got to put a voice with your character. All right, that helped me work on like how should I voice a character. And then I did Grandpa Joe with Willy Wonka, and he's always trying to look after Charlie. He knows like the family, like the Bucket family is in poverty, that they're poor, that they're starving. But he always tries to cheer up Charlie. Okay, so you just like that one, I learned how to like embody the lines, like how I should like speak each line in order to get a specific message across. And so I think that each play as I've done it has really matured different aspects of my theater journey, and that it as a whole has matured me.
that's a nice way to say it. That's a really nice way to say it. But yeah, I kind of agree with that. There's not going to be just one role that like allows you to mature because every role is different. There's going to be one role that might be some happy-go-lucky person where there's another role where there's someone who may be in poverty, things like that. And yeah, it's kind of the different aspects of these roles, like what David said, that allows the actor to mature himself. And yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think Duran. Yeah, let's go to Duran next. So, which role of yours has allowed you to mature?
Of course, like both of y'all said, of course, each role matures you more as an actor. But for me, I would say I played Simba in The Lion King, and that's the role that like really matured me as an actor because that was actually my first lead role in the show. It taught me how to navigate stage. It taught me how to work with other actors individually, and it taught me how to work with other actors like in a group setting as well.
Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, yeah, that's definitely one part of being an actor as well. You gotta be able to work with others around you because if others around you are interpreting this role in a certain way and you're interpreting it in a completely different way, then it's not gonna come together. The production's not gonna work. So, yeah, it's definitely a huge part of like collabing with the other people in your cast to kind of make sure that you're all on the same page on how you kind of want to play your role and how you want to go about that and approach that. So yeah, that's definitely very important. And Daisy, let's conclude with you on this question. So which role of yours has allowed you to mature the most?
Yeah. As much as I think that there have been very specific roles at like pivotal points in my life that definitely have shaped like the actor that I am today, um, I have to say just like ensemble and specifically dance captain. I have been dance captain a couple of times for different shows, but the first time I was ever dance captain um was like post COVID, which was like a weird time, and I don't know, something about it, just like the responsibility that came with being dance captain, just I don't know what it did to me. Like I just really stepped up into that role and I really loved it, and just kind of like I don't know, owned the responsibility of that. And I just think that I did like a pretty good job of like keeping up with it and having fun while doing it, and just like loving it, the whole every aspect of being dance captain. I just think there's also an importance of being in the ensemble and learning, chorus work, and because that is teamwork and community building and stuff like that. And I think that's essential in theater. Um, you know, to really make it, you have to know what it's like to work with a team and be uh part of the background in a sense, but shows aren't shows without the ensemble, so they're really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see that. That's actually a really great point that you made about the dance captain and the ensemble as well, because you're right. Is a, excuse me, no show is a show without the ensemble. They add that finishing touch. They add maybe that little glimmer, and they add the other singing and dancing aspects that you'll need as part of your show. And I think just that aspect can allow an actor to mature so much. Because once again, going back to what Duran and Daisy said about the teamwork aspect, that is
Totally.
so ridiculously important as part of theater because you need to be able to work with others on a certain angle for maybe this scene or maybe how you want to approach the singing aspect in this scene or this number or maybe how you want to take apart the choreography for this specific number. And it's just things like that that really really enhance the show and really really set it apart from maybe some other production going on in the area or something like that. And that I'm actually, yeah, really, really glad you guys mentioned that teamwork aspect because, like I've been saying this whole time, that is such an important part of theater. But of course, I'm not going to ignore what David said because like I said before, there's so many different roles that you can play as an actor. There's not just going to be one role that you'll have to stick to throughout your theater career. I mean, as you get older, you'll be able to like discover which roles fit you better and then it's going to go along with that. But if you start off young, you're kind of still finding out your theater personality and kind of what you want to get into as you get older. I mean, sure, eventually, yeah, you're gonna find that, but once again, you're still in like the exploration phase when you're young and being able to like acknowledge these different roles and being able to take it in and being able to learn these different things from playing these different roles is so important because it's what's going to allow you to grow as an actor and get even better as you get further and further through the theater community and the theater industry and things like that. So, yeah, I really, really liked your guys' answers for this question, and I suppose we'll go on to the next question. So, this question is a little bit different. I figured since theater isn't just like some black and white thing where you're just doing the role and you just go home. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that people on stage might not know about, and that could change the result of the play for better or for worse. And that's kind of what this question is about. So I kind of just want you guys to recall something maybe funny or it doesn't even have to be funny, but just something noteworthy that happened backstage during a real performance, a performance that was happening in front of an audience. So I think for this question, let's start off with David this time. Yeah, let's start off with David this time.
Yeah, so something kind of funny that happened backstage. I'll talk about the most recent show I did. It was SpongeBob, and there was a scene where I had to come on stage. I was pushing this cart, and I was tangled in this paper. It had a bunch of words written over it. I was trying to like look for stuff. It was a list. It was a very long list, and I was tangled all over it. And when I exited stage from that scene, I had to get the whole list off my body and then go into the dressing room, put on some more makeup, change my shoes, and then get right back on stage for my number. And in the second show that we did, I get off stage and I somehow managed to tie the list into a knot around my body and like in between my legs. So I had to go get someone to get the makeup and my shoes from back in the dressing room, bring them to the wings, and they had to change me and do my makeup in the wings while I untied the knot from the list. And it we had a good laugh about it after. It was a little bit stressful in the heat of the moment, but that happens backstage. Sometimes you have a little bit of a malfunction, and you're gonna get through it. The show must go on. That's the saying. The show must go on, and we did. We got through it. I went on stage, did the number. It was great, and yippee.
Okay, so that's very, very interesting. So I was in the show with David, and I had no recollection of this happening. But I guess we were just on different parts of the stage at that moment. But that is ridiculously funny. But yeah, I'm glad once again. That's what this whole question is about. What David just said. The show must go on, and it's really interesting to see how the show went on from that specific instance that happened. So good on you for not panicking too much and being able to go out there and continue doing your thing. So yes, that's very good on your part, David. I think let's go to Daisy for this next question. So what's something interesting that happened backstage for you?
Oh my, there's so many just like funny instances that you like that the audience might not think of, like mics turning on or sets falling or like any kind of costume mishaps or just like um I don't know, things like that. I was trying to think of like a specific instance, but I guess like I don't know. I think this crazy story this did happen on stage, but I was in this show one time where um my character had to get whipped. It was really weird. It was like scary. It was really weird, scary, whatever. And during one of the shows one time, so like the way that it worked was that I didn't actually get whipped on stage. Like he would just kind of like slap the floor and I would react because theater. But one of the nights he really did like accidentally hit me with the whip. And like it didn't hurt because when you're wearing costumes, you're wearing like a bunch of layers. So I didn't really feel it, but I think just the shock of like it actually happening, I really did like scream. And when I came off stage, like everyone was like, "Wow, Daisy, like that scream sounded so real tonight." And I was like, "It was." But yeah, so I guess that was funny.
Oh, well, that's one of the most unusual incidents I've ever heard. That's definitely something you're going to be telling your children and grandchildren from there on. But that's very interesting. But to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that it's not something that I've ever heard before, and that's what makes it so interesting. And just I have no words. Just good job for reacting really genuinely. So good on you for that. But Duran, you're our last person here. So what's something funny that happened to you, maybe backstage or on stage, whichever one you want to choose.
Okay. I've changed my answer like 3 times while y'all been like going about like y'all's answers, and I still don't feel like mine is good. But it was my first show, Annie, and like that being my first show when I was a younger actor, I'd always be nervous. Whenever I was nervous, I would have to use the bathroom. So it was Annie during the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really need to go to the bathroom right now. So I go into the boys' bathroom in the dressing room. I use the bathroom, I flush the toilet, and I come out, and then I don't remember who it was, but someone came up to me and they're like, Duran, you know the audience can hear that, right? And I was like, what? And I was like, and they were like, yeah, you're not supposed to flush the toilet. And I was like, oh, whoopsies. And now I know I haven't used the bathroom in the dressing room since. So yeah.
It's so funny how everybody else is just reacting like, "Oh my God," and you're just sitting there being like, "Yeah, I did that." Oh, that's hilarious. But once again, let's go back to the purpose of this question in the first place. These things happen. These things genuinely happen to all of us, as you've seen with David and Daisy and Duran. These things do happen. And it's okay. We go on with life, we go on with the show, and at the end, we all have a good laugh about it because it's not going to affect your life or anything. It's not going to stop you from getting into that dream college that you want to get in. It's just a show, and there's going to be so many more of them. So it's not like this one incident is going to change the rest of your theater community outcome. I mean, obviously, you should avoid instances in the future. Don't be like, it's okay. This won't affect anything that happens. But you still got to be careful. And if you're careful, these things won't happen. It's just sometimes we slip up, and that's okay. So these instances have really gone to show that. And yeah, thank you guys for answering that. It's about instances that you might not want to have particularly shared. But yeah, once again, thank you for talking about that. And on to the next question. So I've personally seen a lot of different types of theater, and I'm sure you guys have as well, and they can usually be separated into like two main categories. There's musical theater where a lot of the story is told through music that is sung by the principal roles and the ensemble roles as well. And there's also just generally just non-musical theater where people rather than expressing the story and telling it through music, they just kind of tell it through dialogue mainly. And I kind of just want to know from you guys, since you've been in so many different shows and you watched so much of different types of theater, I kind of just want to know what would be your pick between musical and non-musical theater and why? I think for this question, I think let's start off with Daisy this time. So what would be your pick?
Um, I think due to my lack of experience with like straight plays, because I've only actually been in one, but hopefully soon that won't be the case with school, with college. But I would have to say musical theater just because I am like a singer, dancer as well. Um, but I also was thinking back, when I was younger, because also like acting can be film. When I was younger, I did a little bit of film acting, but I specifically remember having a conversation with my mom and just being like, I think I like live theater. Like I want to stick with live theater. I just remember I was like, there's just a feeling that you get when you have that live feedback, like when people actually laugh when you say something, or like just all the incidents that we were talking about, like mishaps of backstage and stuff that um just that's like special. And I think that live theater just holds like a special place in my heart compared to like acting on screen. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to trying anything now, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like, no offense to you, but I kind of expect you to say that since you've been really experienced with musical theater as well. And once again, no harm, no foul. But yeah, I think musical theater is definitely your strong suit, and I admire you for that. So that's good.
Hey.
Um, I think let's move to David this time. So, what would be your pick between musical and non-musical theater?
Well, similar to what Daisy said, like I've done more musical theater plays than non-musical theater plays. So I think like for that reason, since I'm less experienced, I personally would pick musical theater. But I enjoy all theater, like watching all theater. And there's definitely people like one of my best friends heavily prefers non-musical theater than musical theater, but he still does like the fall musical at our show. He still does the spring or the fall musical at our school. Sorry, he still does the spring musical, and if there's an opportunity to do a non-musical, he's also going to take that one. So for me, it's musical theater, but to each their own. All theater is great in my opinion. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's definitely that's a great point because yeah, once again, you're gonna be if you're part of the theater community, you can't like really choose like what I mean you can, but you should be welcoming to all different types of theater because you're part of this community and there's gonna be different preferences for different people on what kind of theater some people like and what kind of theater some people don't like and you kind of have to be at peace with that. Like you kind of be like you suck because you think musical theater's bad. He's like, you kind of have to respect the differences in opinion in the theatrical community because those are going to exist. But I still haven't let one person answer yet. So, Duran, what would be your pick between musical and non-musical theater?
Okay, so I was gonna try to be different, but that's not gonna happen. My pick between musical and non-musical theater is gonna be musical theater. Um, just because I grew up singing, um, I love the feeling of like being on the stage. Like Daisy said, like the live reaction of like a crowd. It gives more energy to the show. It gives more energy to the actors. Um, and it just makes everything like flow smoothly, if that makes sense. And also watching musical theater, it's definitely a joy to see. But like everyone else also said, non-musical theater is also like, how do I say this? I don't know. But non-musical theater is like also, wait, oh, wait, let me catch my words. non-musical theater is like also a joy to see and be in because I'm in a play right now for my school. It's called Eurydice. I'm rehearsing for, and it's just like so fun to see the difference and like switch from musical theater acting to non-musical theater acting. If that makes sense.
I'm actually so glad that you touched on that last point as well, because once again, as you get deeper into theater and you keep going, you're obviously going to start having certain roles that fit your personality more. But it's also fun to just generally see the differences between these different theater styles, because you're going to be seeing that as you get deeper and deeper into your theater career. Like in the case of Duran, he's done a lot of musical theater, and now that he's doing this particular non-musical theater play, he's kind of seen like the benefits of it and kind of what it has to offer. And that's another huge part of like this question as well. Like it's not the fairest question because it's also a matter of exposure and which one you've been exposed to more and you've seen more of and you've been part of. So you're obviously going to like say you like the one that you've been part of and seen more of, but it's also fun to just admire the differences between the two as well, because that's what we do all the time when we're living everyday life. We admire the differences between us and other people, and we don't just have to be at peace with that, but we can also admire that and see, hey, everybody has these different preferences and these different personalities, and that's what makes it so beautiful. And I think that's kind of the same with musical and non-musical theater as well. We can admire the differences between the two and see what both of them have to offer. And I think that's definitely the best part.